14 seconds. That is all the footage shows. 14 seconds of a young woman in an elevator, pressing buttons, hiding in corners, peering around the edge of the door at something the camera cannot see, moving her hands in ways that have generated more theories than any other piece of CCTV footage in the history of true crime. Her name was Elisa Lam. She was 21 years old. She was a Canadian student from Vancouver, traveling alone through California. And on the 31st of January 2013, the day she was supposed to check out of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, she vanished. 19 days later, maintenance workers at the hotel climbed to the roof to investigate guest complaints about water pressure and water that tasted strange. Inside one of the 4 rooftop water tanks, they found Elisa Lam's body. The tank was sealed. The hatch was closed. The roof was alarmed and restricted. And the coroner, after an investigation that was inconclusive for weeks, eventually ruled the death an accident. 3 questions have never been satisfactorily answered, and this investigation examines each one. My name is the voice behind Creepy Chronicles, and I want to be precise about what this investigation is and is not. This is not a conspiracy theory. This investigation does not claim that Elisa Lam was murdered, or that her death was supernatural, or that any specific individual was responsible for anything. The coroner ruled accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing factor. That verdict has not been overturned. What this investigation does is examine the 3 factual questions that the official verdict does not fully resolve. Questions about physical access, about the mechanics of the tank, and about what the toxicology report actually established. We present what the documented record confirms. The conclusions are yours. Elisa Lam was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She was traveling alone, which her family and friends said was out of character. During her stay at the Cecil, she had been moved from a shared dormitory room to a private room after complaints from other guests about her behavior, though the nature of those complaints was never publicly specified in detail. The Cecil Hotel where she was staying has a documented history that is difficult to separate from the case. It opened in 1927 in the Skid Row area of downtown Los Angeles. Over the following decades, it was the last known address of multiple murder victims. The serial killer Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, lived there during his 1984 to 1985 killing spree. Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger stayed there in 1991. Multiple suicides were recorded on the premises over the hotel's history. By 2013, it was operating partly as a budget hostel. Elisa Lam was staying in the hostel section. The hotel was, and is, a building with a deeply documented history of tragedy. That history is not evidence of anything supernatural, but it is relevant context for understanding why what happened to Elisa Lam generated the level of attention it did. The CCTV footage was released by the LAPD on February 14, 2013, 2 weeks after Elisa's disappearance and 5 days before her body was found. The footage shows Elisa entering the elevator on what appears to be one of the hotel's mid-level floors. The timestamp in the footage is blurred, a detail that generated significant online speculation. Though the LAPD stated the timestamp obscuring was standard practice to protect privacy in released footage. In the footage, Elisa presses multiple buttons. The elevator doors do not close. She moves to the corner of the elevator, then to the edge, peering out into the corridor. She steps out of the elevator. She appears to gesture or speak to someone outside the frame. She returns to the elevator. The doors remain open throughout. She then leaves the elevator for the final time. The footage ends. The elevator doors eventually close and the lift moves, with no one inside it. The LAPD said the elevator's door hold button had been pressed, which explained why the doors remained open throughout the footage. This is a documented and technically plausible explanation. What the footage does not explain, what no explanation has fully resolved, are the 3 questions at the heart of this investigation. Question 1. How did Elisa Lam access the roof? The roof of the Cecil Hotel was not publicly accessible. Access required either a key or a staff code. The roof door was alarmed. Hotel management stated, in court proceedings related to a civil lawsuit filed by Elisa Lam's parents, that the alarm was operational and that no alarm was triggered on the night of her death. The LAPD investigated and found no evidence that the alarm had been tampered with or disabled. They found no evidence that any staff member had propped the door open, and they found no evidence of any other individual accompanying Elisa Lam to the roof. The official position is that Elisa Lam accessed the roof through means that could not be conclusively established. The alarm not triggering has been attributed to possible malfunction or to the possibility that the door was opened in a way that did not fully engage the alarm sensor. Neither explanation has been demonstrated with physical evidence. Question 2. How did she enter and close the water tank? The water tank in which Elisa Lam's body was found was approximately 1 meter in diameter and approximately 3 meters tall. It sat on the rooftop. Access was through a hatch at the top. When the maintenance worker opened the hatch on February the 19th, the hatch was closed. Not locked, the tanks did not have locks, but closed. Elisa Lam's body was found fully submerged inside. The question of how the hatch came to be closed has never been definitively answered. The LAPD investigated the physical mechanics of the hatch and concluded that it was possible for the hatch to fall closed under its own weight after a person had entered the tank. Physical testing was carried out. The results were never publicly released in full detail. The hatch closing under its own weight while a person was inside the tank is physically possible. Whether it is physically possible for a person in Elisa Lam's condition, alone, at night, on a restricted rooftop, to have climbed into a 3-meter tank and been unable to exit, is a question the coroner's verdict does not directly address. Question 3. What does the toxicology actually establish? The toxicology report found traces of 3 prescription medications in Elisa Lam's system, all consistent with her prescribed treatment for bipolar disorder. The coroner found no alcohol, no illegal substances, and no evidence of any substance that would typically be associated with incapacitation by a third party. The coroner noted that the significant decomposition of Elisa Lam's body, she had been in the water tank for 19 days, meant that a full toxicological examination was not possible. Some substances break down rapidly in decomposing tissue and would not be detectable after the period of immersion. The coroner's conclusion was that the available toxicological evidence was consistent with accidental drowning and that no evidence of foul play was detected. That is accurate as far as it goes. What it does not establish is a complete toxicological picture, because the condition of the body made a complete picture impossible. The official verdict: accidental drowning, bipolar disorder as a significant factor, is not impossible. A young woman experiencing a mental health episode in an unfamiliar city, in a hotel with no working roof alarm, may have found her way to the roof and into the water tank in ways that produced no detectable evidence. What the official verdict does not do is explain the mechanics of the roof access, the hatch closure, or the physical limitations of the toxicological analysis. It resolves the case without resolving the questions. Elisa Lam's parents filed a wrongful death civil lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel, alleging negligence in maintaining the roof access and the water tanks. The case was settled out of court. The terms of the settlement were not disclosed. Out-of-court settlements reveal nothing about guilt or liability, but they do mean that the factual questions at the heart of the case, the roof access, the hatch, the toxicology, were never tested in an open court proceeding. Creepy Chronicles investigates the cases the official record leaves unresolved. Every Thursday and every Sunday, real, documented, told without apology. Elisa Lam was 21 years old. She was traveling alone. She had a documented medical condition, and she died in a sealed water tank on a restricted rooftop in a city she had never visited before. The coroner said it was an accident. The LAPD closed the case. The hotel settled out of court. The footage is still 14 seconds long, and the doors still do not close.